The arrogance of the Vrythul Collective. Location: Vrythul Command Ship Voidspire. Orbiting Terra-5. The Vrythul fleet had been traveling for centuries, their sleek obsidian ships slicing through the void of space with precision. They were explorers, conquerors, and scientists all rolled into one, a species that prided itself on its ability to adapt, dominate, and assimilate. Their empire spanned galaxies, their technology was unmatched, and their arrogance knew no bounds. To them, every planet they encountered was either a resource to be harvested or a civilization to be subjugated. And so, when their scanners detected Terra-5, a small blue-green orb teeming with life, they assumed it would be another easy conquest. Commander Tyrannus stood at the helm of the flagship Vortex Blade, his elongated body shimmering faintly under the ship's dim red lights. His 6 eyes scanned the holographic display hovering before him, analyzing every detail of the planet below. The data streamed in steadily. Oxygen-rich atmosphere, diverse ecosystems, and an intelligent species known as humans. Tyrannus's mandibles clicked softly, a sound akin to laughter among his kind. "Fascinating," he murmured, his voice a low, guttural hum. "They call themselves apex predators. How quaint." Commander Tyrannus of the Vrythul Collective stared at the holographic projection of Terra-5, his bioluminescent scales pulsing with contempt. The planet glowed softly in the darkness, a blue-green marble teeming with what the Vrythul databases called harmless organic matter. His mandibles clicked in disdain. "This is the planet the High Council fears?" Tyrannus sneered, turning to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Zin. "Look at these creatures, humans. Soft, slow, no claws, no venom. Their apex predators are glorified furballs." Zin, ever the pragmatist, hesitated. "Commander, the archives mention geological volatility and unpredictable weather patterns. Perhaps—" "Weather?" Tyrannus interrupted, his voice dripping with scorn. "We've conquered the acid storms of Xylathus. We've colonized the frozen hellscape of Krell's Maw. Terra-5 is a garden." The crew murmured agreement, their clawed appendages clacking against consoles. The Vrythul Collective had spent millennia dominating galaxies. Their exoskeletons could deflect plasma fire. Their venom could melt durasteel. What threat could a planet of fleshy bipeds pose? Tyrannus activated the ship's intercom. "Prepare for landing in sectors Aranthia 9. The dust wastes. Humans labeled it Australia. A region so lethal, even they fear it. We'll start there. Let their nightmares become our trophy." As the Voidspire descended, Tyrannus reviewed the mission logs. Human dangerous species. Spiders, snakes, kangaroos. He scoffed. On his homeworld, the Pelugian maw beast could swallow a Vrythul whole. Terra-5's creatures seemed quaint. The dust wastes strike back. Location: the dust wastes, formerly Australia. Terra-5. "Behold, brethren," Tyrannus declared, spreading his arms wide. "The humans fear this place. They say it is deadly. Ha, let us see." And see they did. The landing ramp hissed open, unleashing a wave of blistering heat. Scout Krell, youngest of the crew, stepped onto the cracked red earth. His ocular implants adjusted to the harsh sunlight, scanning the horizon. "Commander, sensors detect no life forms within a 500 span radius. Just dust." Tyrannus joined him, his exoskeleton glistening with a protective moisture film. "Pathetic. Humans cower from this? Deploy the survey drones. Let's map this wasteland and be done." The drones whirred to life, skimming the ground. Minutes later, Krell collapsed. His body convulsed, limbs twitching erratically. Medic Orla rushed forward, her scanner beeping frantically. "Commander, a neurotoxin in his bloodstream, source unknown." Tyrannus knelt, examining Krell's suit. A tiny puncture marred the knee joint. "Impossible. Our biosuits are impervious to—" "It's a dune stinger," Orla interrupted, pulling up a hologram of a small 8-legged creature. "Human designation: funnel web spider. Its fangs pierced his suit. The venom is accelerating his nervous system. He'll burn out within minutes." Krell's translator crackled. "I didn't See it? His voice faded as his body went still. The crew froze. Before Tyrannus could react, Scout Tarn, stationed near a cluster of skeletal trees, let out a guttural shriek. A muscular bipedal creature had seized his leg, dragging him into the brush. "Open fire!" Tyrannus barked. Energy bolts seared the air, but the creature, a hopper beast, Kangaroo, leaped aside with unnatural agility. Its tail struck Tarn's helmet, cracking the visor. Tarn's screams dissolved into choked silence as the hopper beast vanished, its prize in tow. Then he felt it. A presence. Something was watching them. Something ancient. Something patient. Something that did not tolerate intrusions. Tyrannus turned his many eyes toward the shadows near the tree line. The scanners detected nothing. And yet, he knew. Something was there. And then, without a sound, it moved. A long, scaly form slithered into view. The Zarnaks, for all their arrogance, recognized a predator when they saw one. This one was different. It didn't charge, didn't lunge, didn't hiss. It simply watched. "Commander," one of the crew whispered. "What is that?" Tyrannus swallowed. "That is a sandrake." It did not blink. It did not flinch. It only waited. And Tyrannus, for the first time in his life, felt something he had never known before: dread. "When are doing? Fall back to the ship," Tyrannus ordered, but the chaos escalated. Scout Milo, perched on a rock outcrop, suddenly flailed as a shadow descended. A flock of shadow wingers, magpies, dive-bombed him, their beaks pecking at his ocular implants. "Get them off. They're blinding me." The crew fired wildly, but the birds scattered, regrouping with eerie coordination. Milo stumbled, fell, and was swarmed. When the shadow wingers dispersed, only his exoskeleton remained. Tyrannus's mandibles trembled. "Seal the ship, now!" The Silent Watcher. Location: aboard the Voidspire, dust wastes. The surviving crew huddled in the ship's command center, their bravado shattered. Tyrannus stared at the external cameras, watching the barren landscape. "Run a full diagnostic. How did those creatures breach our defenses?" Engineer Kara's claws danced across the console. "The spider's fangs contain a compound that weakens polyalloy fibers. The hopper beast's tendons generate force exceeding our gravity models. The birds, they just hate us." Before Tyrannus could respond, a low resonant growl vibrated through the hull. The cameras flickered. On screen, a sinuous scaled creature emerged from a nearby watering hole. A dune dragon, saltwater crocodile. 20 spans long, its armored hide glittered in the sun. "Why isn't it attacking?" Zin whispered. "It's waiting," Tyrannus said, "for us to make a mistake." The dune dragon's eyes, cold, unblinking, locked onto the ship. The crew scanners detected nothing. No heat signature, no movement. It was a void. A primal force that defied logic. Scout Jin, desperate to reclaim dignity, grabbed a pulse rifle. "Let me kill it. One shot to the..." "No," Tyrannus snapped. "That thing survived meteor strikes and continental shifts. You only enrage it." The standoff lasted hours. The dune dragon didn't move. Didn't sleep. It simply existed. A monument to patience. Finally, Tyrannus ordered, "Activate thrusters. We're leaving this cursed sector." But that was nothing compared to what happened next. Because just as the crew began to think they had encountered the deadliest creature on the planet, something far worse appeared. A shadow loomed over the ship, massive and hulking. A beast with horns, fury, and a thirst for destruction. Tyrannus barely had time to whisper. "Oh no, not the bovines." Tyrannus had never known fear, or at least he hadn't until now. The beast stood motionless in the tall grass, its dark eyes reflecting nothing but quiet menace. Its muscular frame was covered in short, bristly fur. Its hooves pressed firmly into the dirt, ready to move at any moment. Tyrannus had never seen a creature look so utterly unimpressed. "Commander," one of the crew stammered through the communicator. "What? What is that?" Tyrannus's voice came out quieter than he intended. "That is a bull." The bull snorted. It was a sound so casual, so dismissive, that it somehow carried more threat than any roar Tyrannus had ever heard. The crew shuffled backward. One of them, trying to assert dominance, waved a scanning device at IT. "It's just standing there, I don't see how." The bull moved. It wasn't fast. It wasn't aggressive. It simply took a step forward. One single deliberate step. But that was enough. The crew panicked. 3 of them turned and sprinted for the ship. One tripped, scrambling back onto his feet so quickly that he nearly left his exoskeleton behind. The one holding the scanner dropped it and bolted, letting out a high-pitched screech that sent the others into an even greater frenzy. Tyrannus remained still. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was a deep primal instinct telling him that running would only make things worse. The bull took another step. Tyrannus had seen warriors face down entire fleets without flinching. He had witnessed battles where ships the size of mountains crumbled under enemy fire, and yet, nothing compared to this moment. The bull lowered its head ever so slightly. Tyrannus made his decision. Everyone back inside the ship. The crew needed no further orders. They scrambled up the ramp, their movements uncoordinated, desperate. One of them flung himself into the entrance so fast that he slid across the floor and crashed into a control panel. Tyrannus was the last to retreat. As he reached the top of the ramp, he chanced one last look. The bull was still there, still watching. And then, ever so slowly, it turned. It wasn't running them off. It wasn't reacting out of fear. It was merely done with them, as if it had more important things to do. As the void spire ascended, the dune dragon slid back into the water, its message clear. "You are not welcome here." The feathered menace. Location: Grassland Sector Gamma, formerly North America. Terra-5. The scanner, still lying outside in the dirt, beeped one last time before the screen went dark. Tyrannus braced himself as the ship's sensors blared an incoming proximity alert. "Commander, it's moving fast. Faster than anything we've encountered so far," one of the officers shouted. "Size?" Tyrannus demanded. The officer hesitated, double-checking the readout. "Small." Tyrannus's mandibles clicked. That was concerning. A large charging beast was one thing. A small, fast-moving one. That meant agility, unpredictability. 2 things that spelled disaster for an unprepared crew. Visual confirmation. The external cameras flickered on, and the image appeared on the main screen. There, kicking up dust as it tore across the landscape at impossible speed, was a bird. A very large bird, but still just a bird. The crew stared in silence. "Commander," someone finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. That's an ostrich." Tyrannus scanned the Terran database. The information made no sense. No talons, no fangs, no venom. But then he saw something else. "The fastest land bird," Tyrannus muttered under his breath. The ostrich was still closing in, its long, muscular legs moving with mechanical efficiency. The speed was unnerving. It wasn't running like an animal fleeing danger. It was running with purpose. Tyrannus switched on the ship's speakers. "Stand down, creature. We mean you no harm." The ostrich did not slow. One of the officers let out a nervous chitter. "Commander." Maybe it didn't hear. Before he could finish, the ostrich leaped. For a brief, terrifying moment, the crew saw it midair. Wings spread for balance, sharp claws extended. Then it slammed into the ship's ramp. The entire vessel rocked. Warning alarms blared. Lights flickered. Tyrannus felt his heart stutter. "Damage report?" The engineering officer frantically checked the readings. "Minimal, just structural stress on the ramp." "Commander, it's still there." The external cameras recalibrated. The ostrich was staring at them. The crew froze. Tyrannus's mandibles twitched. "Is it trying to board?" The ostrich kicked the ramp again. The entire ship groaned in protest. One of the crew members let out a distressed warble. "It wants in, Commander." Tyrannus had been in intergalactic negotiations, in battle, in dire situations where the wrong decision meant the end of his entire fleet. And yet, at this moment, he had absolutely no idea what to do. Another kick. More alarms. A deep dent appeared in the reinforced metal plating. Tyrannus clenched his mandibles. All crew, prepare for emergency liftoff. The ship's engines flared to life. Thrusters ignited. The ground shook. And yet, the Ostrich did not move. It stood firm, waiting as if it had anticipated this outcome. Tyrannus narrowed his eyes. This was no ordinary beast. This was an enforcer of nature itself, the embodiment of chaos in feathered form. The ship lifted. Dust and debris scattered beneath them. The Ostrich finally stepped back, watching them ascend with those dark, unreadable eyes. The crew exhaled in relief. But Tyrannus did not relax. Because before they could fully escape orbit, another alert flashed across the console. Multiple signatures, not from the land, but from the air. The crew stared in horror as the sensors picked up a formation approaching at high speeds. One of the officers whispered, "Commander, it's them." Tyrannus didn't need to ask who. He already knew. He had seen their records, their reputation, their absolute lack of fear. They were the ones Terrans called Geese. The Geese were coming. Whoa. The winged snakes. Location. Skies above Terra-5. Tyrannus had seen horrors before. Massive warships, predatory creatures that could consume an entire platoon in seconds. Cosmic entities that bent the laws of physics, just by existing. None of them prepared him for this. The ship's sensors blared a final warning as the Geese closed in, their wings slicing through the sky with unnatural speed. They moved in perfect formation, their beady, soulless eyes locked onto the vessel with singular burning rage. Tyrannus turned to his crew. Evasive maneuvers now. The helmsman's tentacles slammed into the controls, yanking the ship into a steep climb. The engines screamed. The hull groaned. But they were moving, rising higher, faster, away from the nightmare below. The Geese did not care. They adjusted course instantly, climbing with them, relentless, unshaken by the ship's desperate escape. "They're gaining!" a crew member shrieked. Tyrannus scanned their flight path, his mind racing. Deploy countermeasures. A dozen small drones launched from the ship, flashing bright lights, emitting high-frequency pulses meant to disrupt hostile creatures. The Geese ignored them. One flew straight through a drone, wings barely ruffling. The drone exploded on impact. Another slammed into the hull with the force of a missile. Tyrannus gripped the control panel. How? How does a creature of this size have such power? They are fueled by rage alone, Commander. An officer wailed. Then the worst happened. One of the Geese reached the ship's cockpit window. It hovered there, wings spread, eyes boring into Tyrannus's soul. And then it honked. The sound reverberated through the entire ship, shaking the very foundation of reality itself. Consoles flickered. Systems malfunctioned. Crew members clutched their heads in agony. The ship was failing. Tyrannus knew they had one option left. Prepare for emergency hyperjump. The crew didn't hesitate. They didn't care where they jumped. Anywhere was better than here. Engines powered up. Coordinates were scrambled together in a panic, and the jump drive activated just as the Geese prepared their final assault. With a blinding flash, the ship vanished. Dewoo. Location. Deep space. Zarnak Collective territory. The Void Spire floated in the silent void, its crew huddled in the dimmed command center. Tyrannus stared at the mission log, its final entry blinking accusingly. Objective. Assess Terra-5 for colonization. Outcome. Failure. Recommendation. Quarantine the system. Classification. Death World. Zin approached, her scales dull with exhaustion. The High Council demands answers. Tyrannus gestured to the hologram of a grazing cow. Tell them Terra-5's creatures are not predators. They are wardens. The planet itself rejects outsiders. And the humans. Tyrannus's mandibles twitched. They're irrelevant. The true rulers of Terra-5 are the ones we never saw coming. The disinterested, the unimpressed, the bored. As repairs began, the crew vowed never to speak of the sprintwings, the sky serpents, or the horned grazers. But in the darkness of space, Tyrannus sometimes heard phantom honks, a reminder that Terra-5's guardians were watching and laughing.